Now we're going to have Kiran Pandey from the World Bank here. He's a senior economist and the environmental division. Prior to being at the World Bank, he was at the Global Environment Facility, where he was also a senior environmental economist, and developed and implemented an explicit system for prioritizing GEF investments on climate change and biodiversity across countries and programs. He has a PhD in economics from Maryland, and a master's in engineering from Dartmouth, and a bachelor's in engineering and computer science from Princeton. What's going to be interesting about what he's about to talk about is how this is truly pioneering, that the World Bank could open up its project budgets and categorize each part of the budget. This is a huge step change in granularity, or our understanding of what's actually going on and what impact these projects are having on the climate. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I've been asked to be brief, so I will try to do so. What I'm going to be talking about is the climate finance tracking of World Bank activities. But before I begin, I just want to make sure that on the climate finance agenda, the bank is doing a lot more, and there's a lot more than just the tracking tool that I'm going to be talking about. We do have a climate finance portal, which tries to integrate a lot of the information that is available in terms of what finances are available, where they're coming from, and the types of ways in which our countries can use them. We do have information on the effectiveness, efforts to try to characterize the effectiveness of the climate finance resources, such as looking at emissions and avoided emissions from our projects. Those are all at different stages of development. We do have risk screening tools, such as the ones that Tom just talked about for AFDB. A lot of these are things that we already have in the normal development context, and we're adding and trying to see how to augment them to incorporate climate-related issues. So regarding the climate finance tracking, why are we doing this? What is the context for this? We've already heard about the huge amount of climate finance that is possibly coming in the near future. Some of it is already coming. The bank has been active in trying to mobilize some of these, for instance, through the climate investment funds. But we do have the Green Climate Fund that is also coming, and that is going to be even larger. There is clearly a need to demonstrate transparency and accountability in the use of these funds, to the extent that we want them to regularly flow. The key issues for us then is really how do we report and make sure that dollars that are coming in for climate finance are used for climate finance, or to finance activities for mitigation or adaptation. One of the starting points for us was to see how this was done elsewhere, and we found there is not a great deal of work that has been done, or at least ones that could provide exact answers in terms of comparable comparable allocation of resources for climate activities. Clearly, we have the real markers, which has been sort of like the de facto standard that has been used in a variety of different contexts, including for all bilateral aid. There are significant issues with that in terms of characterizing resources that are allocated to climate, largely related to the fact that it includes a lot of activities that might be not be climate related if it is part of a project which has climate benefits as well. What we tried to do was to develop a relatively simple system, which would be low cost, building off of what is already there in terms of the real markers and what is consistent with the normal standard practices in tracking our resources. So we didn't want to deviate too much from the two things, normal bank standards and what is already there in terms of the real markers. So that is the system that I'm going to describe. What we are tracking, we're tracking dollars of investments as a percentage share of costs for projects in the World Bank portfolio. And what we're tracking is two things. One is the portion that is providing climate co-benefits in terms of adaptation. The second would be climate mitigation co-benefits. We call them co-benefits because the bank as a development institution does development activities, and all of our activities are focused on development. A lot of our activities, though, also provide climate benefits in addition to what we normally do for development. These may be things that are financed through special climate funds, but also a lot of our activities financed through our normal development channels through IDA and IBRD have climate co-benefits. And we think that it is appropriate to report what types of climate activities we're doing through our normal development aid as well. A point in terms of our methodology, the share of mitigation and adaptation that we report are independent, so we can have the same activity providing both adaptation and mitigation co-benefits. This would be what we might call the triple win situation, right? We have development goal benefits, adaptation benefits, and mitigation benefits. The system that we have developed does not measure or report the avoided emissions or try to characterize increases in resilience. Those are things that we are working on. That is not what I'm covering right now, right? Those are key things which will be important to measure the effectiveness of these investments. We'll be covering both lending and non-lending operations that the bank does in the system. How do we do this? Actually, how's the tracking done? We are relying on our project managers who know their projects. So this is not a system which is based on word searches or just brief look at descriptions of projects or anything like that. What we're doing is integrating the system with our normal system, normal project management systems, and asking our project managers to tell us what amount of their projects provide mitigation benefits and what provide adaptation benefits. A key aspect of that will be training our project managers in climate, because a lot of them are not climate experts right now. We will be providing training. We've developed extensive guidance. We have developed step-by-step instructions. We've developed a specific typology of bank activities to help them make those judgments. In the pilots that we have done, we found that it takes about 5 to 15 minutes for a project manager who already knows his projects to code these projects. So it does not increase the burden on data collection, analysis, etc. by a lot. In order to maintain quality, we will be reviewing all of the assessments that project managers have done and to make sure that they conform to the guidance that we have. Of course, all of this information will also be publicly available, and it can be scrutinized by any external party as well. A key aspect of the system is that we will be assessing projects not at the project level but at the subcomponent level, which basically means we're looking at each activity in the project which has a dollar amount associated with it at the time of project approval. And we're assessing each of those against climate mitigation and against climate adaptation co-benefits that they may generate. And then we characterize that and then report back on the dollar amounts associated there. Just to give you a quick example, here's the type of guidance that we are providing program managers. We've gone through each of the sectors that the bank is involved in. That is a comprehensive set. For each sector, we've identified what what are the types of activities that can provide mitigation co-benefits, what are the types of activities that can provide adaptation co-benefits, and we expect, and we also have, as I said, a set of definitions on what adaptation really means or mitigation really means. Those are really built off of and providing additional clarity on what we have in terms of the real markers currently. Here is a sample project. It has 6 subcomponents. The 6 subcomponents have figures associated with them. It's a $100 million water supply and sanitation project. It's 6 components. The first 2 components are rehabilitation of existing stormwater drainage. Second one is reestablishing mangroves, etc. down the line. All right? So program managers would assess each of these components against the guidelines that we have, and they would come and They would come and code these one by one, right? So based on the sector classifications that we have, WD is flood protection. 2 of these subcomponents qualify under that, the rehabilitation of stormwater drainage and reestablishing mangroves. 50% of the project is allocated to that sector, because the others are in other sectors. Program managers would look through and figure out if these components are eligible for adaptation or mitigation, and then record these appropriately. So both of these components are eligible for adaptation. On the mitigation side, only 1 component is, so only 20% of this sector accounts for mitigation co-benefits. At the end of the day, the system will tabulate all the entries that the program managers have put, and is going to determine that the adaptation co-benefits from this project is 50 million and mitigation co-benefits is 13 billion. This is, in a sense, what we've already talked about. I will skip this slide. The system has been tested. It has recently been approved by the bank. We will have a detailed methodology and approach on how this works before the end of the year. Initial results will also probably be available for the first fiscal year, which we have actually evaluated for, which is FY11, which is the last year. Implementation of the system will begin starting next fiscal year. We're gearing ready for that in terms of staff training and integrating these systems into the bank's coding systems. It will be fully operational, as I said, starting in July 2012. Last couple of points. In developing the system, we've consulted extensively within the bank with sectors experts across the spectrum of sectors that we deal with. We've also talked with MDB colleagues who have similar issues in terms of trying to report and quantify resources that they have in their portfolios. There is a working group among the MDBs that is actively engaged in trying to tackle this issue, with which we are closely working in trying to harmonize and hope that we will have common systems that come in place. We have actually also been working with OECD DAC and coordinating with them in terms of this system, and they're quite excited about the direction in which it is going. Finally, we've also consulted with a number of bilaterals and some NGOs selectively based on interest and where things are going. The last point let me make is that once the system is up and once results are available, the system will be fully transparent, and we hope will also be accountable and reliable. The project documents, the bank has already been making all of those available through our Open Data Initiative. Those are already available. We will be making the methodology available publicly as well. And so anyone can actually go and reassess what our methodology is doing and saying, and making sure that we're doing the right thing in terms of applying our methodology. Of course, you can also, because the project data are available publicly, you can also apply different methodologies and see if they would result in different answers, right? We will, of course, complement these over time with the other initiatives that we have, as I said, in terms of GHG accounting and things like that, as they become ready and available, so that we can look at the effectiveness of the resources that we are employing on actually generating climate benefits. Thank you.